How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another podcast. I'm Nick.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Travis.
And we are going to be talking about the time you play a game. And it seems kind of a little bit vague of a title, but to start things off, I'll give a little bit of a kind of a perspective, painting the picture. And obviously we have gamers having highs and lows when it comes to certain games, and it's very subjective and player dependent. So I feel like it's going to be talking about a lot of different things, but it feels like when you actually play a certain game will actually influence how much you enjoy it depending on the other games that you played in the past and what games that you plan on playing in the future as well. So an example of this was actually with me and actually Pokemon Y. So Mike and Travis know a lot about how much I was obsessed with that game.
Obsessed.
And I think obsessed was like an understatement. I put way too much time in that game, but hey, I had a ton of fun playing it. But it was actually at that transition for me where I started off by playing. So I grew up with like the normal like Nintendo consoles, like the portable ones, like the Game Boy Advance, the DS, and whatnot. And I kind of had like a long break of like portable consoles and like really playing games for a long time until I actually got the 3DS. And when I got the 3DS, I saw Pokemon Y. And imagine when you jump in from the last Pokemon game that you played was Ruby to Pokemon Y. And so that time after playing the game, after having no record, like not even playing Black or White or playing like Diamond or Pearl or whatnot, jumping into Pokemon Y like blew my freaking mind, and I was just hooked immediately. So I feel like Pokemon Y had more of a sense of enjoyment for me because I played it after having like no development of that until now. But for you guys, when you probably saw Pokemon Y for the 3DS or whatnot, you're probably like, meh. I kind of was already playing like Black or White or something like that, and so it didn't really blow me away when it comes to like the graphical power of it, I guess. So I guess it's kind of before I go into the big long reason that I kind of thought about this podcast. What do you guys think so far?
Well, let's keep talking about Pokemon, because I'll say I'm kind of in the same boat where I haven't really played one since like Leaf Green. Because I played every generation before, so I kind of got sick of it. And so I stopped playing it.
Yeah.
And then recently I started playing Alpha Sapphire. And I even remember you told me, well, that's not even one of the better ones. That one's kind of an iffy one. But I remember
it was so fun.
Playing it. I love it because the gap between that and Leaf Green has been so long that like there's a bunch of new Pokemon in it. The graphics are upgraded. So for me, it's like, whoa, this is a brand new experience. This is super cool. I'm in love with it. But even though, like you said, people that play every generation probably went into that game thinking this is kind of boring and repetitive. And I think that's kind of what happened with Sun and Moon too, is people didn't like those ones as much for that same reason. So I feel like having that break and gap in like development and release years and stuff really helps, because you're like, whoa, I see the advancements. I've had a break, so I sort of missed the series. Like I feel like a lot of those little things sort of add up to like make the experience better. So I think I kind of went through the same thing you're going through.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of more looking at it through as much as it sounds weird to say it, like through a child's eyes, kind of saying like that the initial excitement that you had for the game. I feel like you don't get it if you like get the games like every single generation. But when I got Pokemon Y, I was blown away. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a completely new game for me at some point. Which even though the mechanics are pretty much the same and whatnot. And because of that, I'll rate Pokemon Y higher than so many other games, and it's very subjective to me. Like as I was saying before, I think this is very subjective and player dependent. Yeah. So I think Pokemon Y is a lot better for a Pokemon game than a lot of other people will say. And I think it's just because of how much that it hooked me, because of the fact that when I played the game, it was almost new to me versus how it is when I play Red version for like the 5th time. Mm-hmm. So it's like, even though I love Red version, I love Pokemon Y so much because it's like I'm looking at it through the same kind of wonder and excitement that I had when playing Pokemon Y.
Hey, distance makes the heart grow fonder.
True.
I definitely agree with what you guys are saying, because like I played Red and Yellow version religiously. Like it's crazy how many if those actually kept score of how many hours I had like put in through all the different times I played it, it would probably be way too high than I should admit. And then I played Silver version a lot too, and then I stopped pretty much after Silver. I picked up Fire Red. Had a lot of fun with that because like they introduced sprinting and a whole bunch of other things that I'm like, oh, awesome. And then it was like graphically advanced enough from, a Game Boy Color game that, they were pretty much trash. Let's be serious here. But
they were.
because it was Fire Red, it still didn't introduce like that many like it had no new Pokemon. So
maybe a couple new moves and that's it. I
yeah,
remember
maybe
they
new
introduced like
moves,
Blast
but that was
Burn.
about it exactly. And then like 2 or 3 years ago, I picked up a black version emulator.
Yep.
And I'm like, this is super cool. I like this because it was a bunch of Pokemon I didn't know. So I actually had to like relearn like what is super effective to what, because like I had zero idea what was going on at any point in time. I was usually able to guess because, you know, purple is usually poison and all that kind of stuff. But like it was that same wonder and excitement of like, oh, this is actually brand new. Even though some of the Pokemon were stupid, like one of the ice type was literally an ice cream cone.
Yeah.
So you can tell that they were running out of ideas, but it's just like, it was still like that same thrill. And since I've been out of it for so long, like you guys were saying, like it was graphically advanced. And I'm like, wow, they've done a lot with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the innovation was very nice at that point. And the fact that I'm sure at that point it was getting more relevant, where I know you could have like Pokemon tournaments going up to this point, but now you kind of have like the hardware capable of like projecting it onto like an actual decent way to like project onto like a large screen and whatnot, and have a lot of customization options. Because before it was kind of weird to like put like 2D sprites battling each other and like text-based menu combat. Like that was advanced back in the day, but at the same time, sorry, my thing just cut out for a little bit. Are we still good?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's like that was graphically advanced back in the day, but now you look at that compared to the Pokemon tournaments that are nowadays, like full 3D models that are very well like in good resolution and everything. That's the new standard, and it's kind of cool the fact that it innovated so much. And it's weird the fact that I really did not like Sun and Moon, and I've already talked about that. I thought Sun and Moon was kind of boring to me, but Pokemon Y I think is just fantastic, and I think that's all dependent on when I played it. So if you guys have any thoughts on that, otherwise I'll go into one of the big reasons I thought about this topic.
Nick, you know what I really miss are the tournaments where you had to plug in your Game Boys with each other and sit across from each other.
I love those with the
them
cable.
while with the cable. I had a purple cable. I still have it, and I still trade Pokemon among my silver and red.
Dude, I still have the thing where you can trade Pokemon through Pokemon Stadium. I love that stuff.
I lost that thing. I used to have that though.
Oh, okay. Those are some fun pieces of hardware right there. But anyway, so unless Mike has something to say, I want to bring in this long kind of point for me, and I'll hear Travis and Mike's kind of feedback afterwards. So
I'm
you have
good.
anything right now, Mike? Okay. So here's my kind of journey, and some people can kind of relate this to game burnout in a way. But I kind of had in my mind, we like gamers kind of go through like highs and lows when it comes to like games and how much that they enjoy them. And so around when like 2017 happened, I was kind of entering like a game low, I guess. I realized that I have a lot of games that I wanted to play, and I was playing to finish rather than like enjoying the actual journey itself. And it kind of lost the kind of initial excitement and fun factor in a way. And so I feel like when it gets to that moment, you need something that you've played when you initially started playing like these games to kind of jump back from that kind of moment. So for me, that was Sonic Mania. Sonic Mania really cracked that mindset to me and reminded me that these games can still be fun and innovative. It's not just, oh, everybody else is playing this game, I want to play this game too because everybody else is playing it. No, Sonic Mania was like, okay, these are still fun games, and these are still games that you've enjoyed a lot, and it's kind of like what you based your gaming journey on. Then I saw Undertale break it again completely, and I was like, all right, I'm starting to enjoy these games. Like it was like back to back, Sonic Mania to Undertale, and then Mario Odyssey started me out back on that game high, where I was grinning the whole time playing these games. I was having fun again, and I would rate these 3 games higher than any of the others I've finished based on this, because I wasn't playing to finish. I was playing because I was playing for fun at that point. So in my mind, I feel like these games to me are just a lot better of games, not because like the other game, not because they might not be objectively better. In my mind, they are, but because other people, they might play the games at a different moment. Maybe if you played Undertale at a low and it didn't excite you or anything, you might not think of it as fun of a game. So in my mind, whenever or whatever the mindset that you're in playing the game as well matters a lot, because if you experience game burnout at the time, you're probably not going to enjoy those games that you would because you're not going into it with an open mind, I guess. So in my mind, those kind of things directly correlate. So I want to see what you guys think about that.
Okay, so I'll tag along, because I think I've had like a similar lull this summer where because like especially when we were doing the top 5 games, I realized that literally like 4 of the games that I threw on there, I like rarely played at all among being home or with you guys, because you guys had no idea about Battlefront 2. Like, I played that maybe once. I never played Halo with any of you guys. And even when I'm home, like Scooter and my friend Robbie, they don't really play it much. And then like I've only just recently kind of came back to hang out with CJ, who actually plays Halo with me. What other games did I throw on there? I don't remember. Anyway, or Outlast, but like, you know, you play that a couple times, and then like we did a race, but other than that, so I was like, huh, like 4 of my 5 games I've like not even touched in a while, and like I haven't really started playing anything new. And then CJ, he got me to get Borderlands 2, and he also got me Dishonored over the summer, and I just recently finished those, and like that was the exact same thing for me. Was they were completely new to me, like I knew nothing about them. So I just like went in with an open mind, and then like had so much fun with them. And then again with Mario Odyssey, that game just blew me away with how much fun it was throughout the entire thing. Like there were only like a couple moons that I was actually like frustrated and trying to find.
Yeah.
And like actually like trying to get, but like I just thoroughly enjoyed it. I just like couldn't put the controller down until I 100%ed it. And
I was the same way.
So I definitely get it, where you sometimes need to like have that game that's just like completely new to you, that brings you back to the mindset of, oh, I shouldn't just be playing this to play it. I should actually like go see what it's trying to go for. Because then I just finally beat Metroid Prime, which I tried doing a couple years ago, and I just stopped playing for no good reason. And I'm like, that was super fun. I can't wait for Metroid Prime 4 now, because that's supposed to come out within the next year and a half or so.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing about it, because for me, the one thing that kind of cracked the mindset of I just want to see how the game finishes to go play the next one. For me, it was actually a nostalgic game, and so I think nostalgia obviously plays a factor in everything we talk about, and that kind of familiarity that reminded me of what that initial excitement was when I was sitting there at like my cousin's house with the Sega Genesis controller and staring at a blue sphere going back and forth on the screen. For me, that's what brought it back. But for some people, it could be the completely new game where it's just like, oh, there's still a whole bunch of other ideas that the whole gaming genre has not even touched on yet that I could play as well. So yeah, I guess it kind of depends on whichever one it is. But I think there definitely has to be some influential game, or just a period of time where you just relax for a bit and you just come back and you then have that initial excitement. It's I want to play the game, not just I have it, so I should be playing it. Yeah,
I guess like even though they were completely brand new games to me, I guess it's just because I've been like so off from like playing shooters that just playing a shooter game again, I guess, kind of made me get back to that mindset of like, oh yeah, I used to love playing these, and I kind of like stopped for a long time, even though I've been playing a lot of Mario Kart again lately with my cousin, but you know, it's a different story.
Great game. I was actually gonna ask Mike though, because of the fact that I feel like did you experience something similar with Danganronpa, Mike? Because I know you loved that game, and you just had like a completely different experience, because that might have been like the first time you played a game like that. So I feel like you like I don't know if that is similar, but I'm wondering what you think about that.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that actually in the top 5 thing that I made, in that game did kind of make me feel like a child again, in the sense that I've never done anything like it. So when I first played that, I was like, this is so weird to me. I've never like played a game where I just read the text and like have these trials where you make those decisions and stuff. It was something that I've never played a video game that's even remotely close to it. And since then, I've played a few, like Danganronpa 2 and 3. Doki Doki Literature Club is another one that's kind of similar in the terms of like a visual novel type game. And so I see what you're saying, where like nothing can ever take that first experience from me. Like Danganronpa 1 is sort of cemented in my head because I was fascinated by it, because I'm like, this is so different from anything else. And the games I've played after it, as fun as they are, like I loved the sequels to that game, but in my head they'll never like be at that level. And I think that's the nostalgia factor that kind of comes into play, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so even though it's something I did recently, I still feel like there's that nostalgia because it's the first time you did it. You know, and I think that's like Sonic Mania for you. Obviously, you're going to like Sonic Mania more than Sonic Forces because your nostalgia, like you mentioned before, you love games like Sonic 2 and 3. And so those are like some of the first games you played in. Because of that, Sonic Mania is going to be up there for you because it's like a throwback to the original games. And I think that's what Danganronpa over time is going to be for me. I love visual novel games, but it's never going to compete with the original one that I played.
Yeah. Well, and also if you think about the time difference when you play it as well, because the original, like Sonic 2, when I played Sonic 2 and the original Sonic the Hedgehog for the Sega Genesis, I was like 3 or 4. So I barely even had the hand-eye coordination to use the controller. I could barely even get past the first state, or like the first couple stages in the game. And when I get to Sonic Mania, I would believe that I have decent hand-eye coordination right now, so I would be able to play those games very well, and I'm able to actually beat the actual story mode now, and so I actually have a lot more of an enjoyment when I go back to it as well. So it's one of those things where sometimes you just have to have a game to really switch up or at least whatever games that you thought you would be the only games that you would like. I guess that's kind of a weird way to say it. You need the kind of a different game to switch it up, because Sonic Mania was still a different game to me. Undertale was completely different, and Mario Odyssey was just one of those games that reminded me of how much fun I had playing Super Mario 64 DS, because I 100%ed that game as well, and loved every second of it. I don't even know why, but I remember playing the Luigi mini games because they're all like card games and whatnot, and I remember playing the poker in there until like I almost maxed out the amount of like coins or whatever that I had, and there was no point in me doing that whatsoever, but I loved it. I thought it was so much fun. So there, I mean, in my mind, yeah, obviously nostalgia plays a role in it, and I feel like a game has to get you to see it with like the innocence of a child. Be excited about it, and the time that you play the game and what you're possibly going through, because there's a lot of things that factor in: life problems, like, I don't know, family situations, like all that stuff matters. And when you actually have and so maybe a game that you like, that's why there's certain games I want to go back to and actually revisit, because now that I'm really excited about playing certain games, I'm like, okay, I want to see if I enjoy this game more now, and so I can see it with a better mindset there. Really, the only game that I played in like around the time that I really enjoyed when I kind of was entering that low was Earthbound, and I thought that game is fantastic. Yeah. But I feel like I probably would have enjoyed it more if I go replay that like at a different time. But yeah, so as of right now, another thing that I have here is that in my mind, there's really like, I will hear other people's opinions at it. Like, there's certain people who don't like Mario Odyssey, which, by the way, screw them. But there's nothing wrong with other opinions in that way. But I love the games like Sonic Mania, Undertale, and Mario Odyssey because it changed that mindset in my head. It did a lot more for me and the games that I enjoyed playing more than like I feel like it would be for the other players. So because I feel like games are just a form of entertainment, what the player is going through at that moment really does matter. Yeah. So at least in my mind, especially if people are like experiencing game burnout, what I think is a good thing for them to do is just stop playing games for a while. That's really what I did. And the crazy thing is like maybe like you might not want to, or you might be like, oh, but I still have these other games to play. It's like, just take a break. Because there will be a time when at least in my mind, I feel like there will be a time when you're like, I do want to finish up that game. And when you kind of have the want to do so, it does a lot better for you to enjoy the game. Yeah, and I think Call of Duty speaks volumes to what you're saying, because like I think Travis obviously loves those games, and I do too, but they make one every year and all of a sudden you stop playing the games. And Travis, have you even bought some of the recent ones besides World War II? Let's see. So the last one I've gotten since World War II has been, let's see, maybe MW3. Exactly. 3. So like it shows like we love shooters, but they come out every year and you experience that burnout where like, I don't really care to play these. They're repetitive. They're doing stupid new stuff. You don't really care about it. I think if they had longer gaps, and obviously they're not going to do it because they want money, but if you had like these 2-3 year gaps between them, I think it would be a lot easier, because at that point you can develop your ideas better. You're not like, because if you make something every year, you sort of have to rush something out to like make it innovative, and you kind of get desperate. But if you wait a longer period of time, it's like, oh, you have more time to process your ideas, plan the development, things like that, and you get something better out of it, and it'd be more enjoyable. Go through the ideation process. I mean, there really isn't like a template on what makes a good game. There really isn't, because let me think about it this way. What I think is a good game is the completely opposite, or like what I think is like one of my favorite game series, Fire Emblem, is like the complete opposite of what Travis probably has as one of his favorite game series, like Halo. So it's like there's no template on what makes a game good, but it's really subjective to the person on what makes it actually good.
Yeah.
At least that's what I think. So when it comes down to I feel like they should take more of a break, but they won't when it comes down to Call of Duty because they want to make more money out of it. But at the same time, there's always going to be those idiots to actually get that game. And the only thing that's going to stop them is if people don't get the game every single year.
Yeah.
But that's not going to stop it.
Well,
So
Right, especially because you're also getting people at different points. Like, I finally went back to Call of Duty because I'm like, hey, it kind of looks like they went back to like what they used to be doing. But I mean, if I was back in my, middle school, high school era, I would have just been introduced to Call of Duty, so like it wouldn't have felt that repetitive to me. So of course they're going to keep buying it because that's where a majority of the players are from, I think.
Yeah.
yeah, because so many people want just the newest thing, which in my mind I like, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I mean, I don't think that necessarily makes it better in any way. But I'm sure so many people just want to play on the most updated server and whatnot, and like have the smoothest connection. I mean, it really depends on what kind of player you are, and again, that's why a topic like this, like the time that you play a game, is very subjective. But I don't think that really helps out for wanting to contain that initial excitement when you like have a controller in your hands and you want to play something. I feel like you'll be more excited when you want to play the next one. That's when you go out and get the next one.
Right.
Like, and if you don't have that inclination because there's a game being pumped out every year, then just take a break for a year, honestly. And honestly, I think that was one of the reasons why I loved Pokemon Y so much. It's just because of the fact that there was a break. I set it aside for a little bit. I was like, I'm not having as much fun with the system, and I come back, boom, I'm hooked again.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best way to do it.
But then it's hard because you sort of get put in a weird position because you love the series and you want to play all the games in it. And you say, well, if I take a couple years off, I'm missing 2 games that I could potentially fall in love with, So now it becomes this weird situation where it's like, I don't want to skip this game. I don't want to play them every single year because I get burnt out, but I don't want to skip it because I love this franchise, So it's
That's kind of what I did with Call of Duty, because I'm like, I started hating it in like shortly after Black Ops, but I still bought every single one because it was like Black Ops. I don't even know what came out. That might have been MW3, and I think
so.
we got Black Ops 2. But I'm like, I stopped liking it at Black Ops, but I still bought 3 games because I'm like, maybe this one will be as good as Call of Duty 4 and Modern Warfare 2 because I loved those games and World at War.
Yeah.
And then they never were.
That's when nostalgia can kind of screw you on that too. When it's just like, I know how much fun I had. Let's see if I can get it now. Nope.
Exactly.
Darn, it's a dud. But yeah. I mean, it also really depends on what the first one that you play is too. So in my mind, like everybody probably has their favorite Mario Party, which is the one that they ended up playing the most, and so the game that they know the best too. So that's why they love the certain Mario Parties more than others. But yeah, and at the same time, there's somebody who actually said, first of all, this guy's just wrong. He said that Home Alone 3 was the best Home Alone, and I was like, you're dumb. You're really, really dumb. But it's just like his first Home Alone was the one that he saw without Kelly McCulkin. Is it Kelly McCulkin?
I don't know. It's Kevin.
Kevin McAllister. Whoever played Kevin McAllister.
Yeah.
But it's just whichever one you play first is the one that you're going to have the most ties to or whatnot. And it's going to be your template, even though there really is no template on these games, on what makes the game good or bad.
Yeah.
So, well, that's what I think.
And we're kind of proof of that because you've already talked about like Sonic Mania, Pokemon Y, all those games. Because those are all the games you played as a kid, like you loved Pokemon, you loved the original Sonic games. But we were just talking about it in the anticipated release video, and I'm sure this will come out before that does, but a game called Pillars of Eternity is coming out, which is like an old school homage to like original RPGs, and you could care less about that because you never really played those as a kid. And so even though that's also a throwback game, we don't really care because it's not something we played. And so, like, we decide what we like based on what we liked as a child. They're all throwback games, but Sonic Mania is like what you liked as a child, and because of that, that's the one you're going to focus on and fall in love with. And that's what Mario Odyssey is like, because that's a lot like Mario 64 and, games like that. And so those are games we're going to gravitate toward. And we go in with a bias, and that's not to say that it's a bad game. It's a great game, but we knew we were going to love it beforehand because we're biased,
Yeah,
right.
It's also like our parents had a part in doing it too, because we couldn't buy the consoles at that time. So whatever consoles that our parents got us, we're kind of biased towards those games too.
Right.
So in my mind, like I'm very biased towards loving Nintendo games. But then again, Nintendo is what I had growing up. So when I went over to friends' houses, when I was able to play Xbox and PlayStation games, but I didn't understand those games. I didn't know what the difference was.
Right.
So I feel like we always have those preconceived notions no matter what happens. And it really does. And that's why I keep saying it before. It's extremely subjective to the actual player.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, that's what I think. So I've said most of what I want. What about you guys?
Yeah, I think I pretty much covered what I wanted to say.
What about you, Travis?
Yep, you know, your kid experiences, they ruin your life.
I will say it is kind of like a tree, you know, where like the original things you played are like the roots of the tree, and you have branches where you kind of deviate a little bit. Like Undertale is kind of like Pokemon in terms of, you know, the structure of it, but it's obviously a lot different. So that's like a branch off of it. But I feel like everything we love sort of stems from what we originally did. And so we can't really change that. And so I feel like no matter what, we can't deviate too far from what we loved as a kid. It's all sort of a branch.
Yeah, so like for me, like my roots are in RPGs and platformers, and then coming up from there, that's when you can get the other ones like the Undertales and whatnot, who really kind of play with those formulas.
Right, exactly.
But I guess as a counterpoint, after that Nintendo Direct, I looked more into that Octopath Travelers, and I was addicted to that demo. Like, I beat both of the bosses in one sitting because I'm like, this game is amazing, and it's nothing like I've played before.
But you're like me. I think we just like everything. So
we're whores.
You guys are too much of optimists. Well, either way, there's a comment section below. Use it. We want to know about you guys. If there's a certain game that sticks out to you when you played it based on what you were going through at the time, let us know. Also, do you experience game burnout? And if so, let us know about that as well, because it's always interesting to hear about your guys' opinions and your guys' game journeys as well. So, signing off, this is Nick.
Mike.
And Travis.
Bye, everyone.